and it's also just after Tu Bishvat. We always try to observe Tu Bishvat on the Friday evening close to Tu Bishvat, because that's when people gather, and it's still sort of the full moon time. The official full moon is the 15th of the month of Shevat, which was Wednesday night and Thursday. So we're only like 24 hours, but the moon still, I'm sure, is beautiful. When we're done with the service, you can go outside and check it out. But under the full moon of a Shvat, we have this amazing holiday that we'll talk about obviously a lot tonight, Tu Bishvat. But it's also Shabbat, and by the way, it's Shabbat Shira. Shabbat Shira is Shira means song. So if anyone has a Hebrew name, Shira, which is a beautiful name, it means song. But Shabbat Shira technically is the Shabbat when we read on Shabbat morning from the Torah, the part of the Torah that has the song of the sea, when the Hebrew slaves finally escape from slavery and they sing the song at the sea. And of course, the song at the sea includes Michamocha, which has become part of our service. And so we call the Shabbat, when we read the song of the sea, Shabbat Shira. So, but besides, we're not going to read Torah tonight, but it's still Shabbat Shira. So we always like to sing on Shabbat, but maybe with extra gusto and ruach on Shabbat Shira. So I'm going to start things off with just Hine Matov from the Psalm. How good it is to be together. It's been a while since I've led services and actually seen other people's faces besides my own mug. So that's really nice to see the people on Zoom. I want to tell you that if you want to download a Haggadah, a Tu Bishvat Haggadah, you simply go to centralreform.org, go to upcoming holidays. Autumn is putting it in the chat. Go to upcoming holidays, click on that. You'll see Tu Bishvat, and it'll tell you how to download the Haggadah. I'm going to tell you that you can do what you want, but maybe in the spirit of Tu Bishvat and honoring the trees, maybe not print it and try to use it in its electronic form, because obviously part of Tu Bishvat has really become not just celebrating the trees, but really to remind us how important it is to preserve the trees and to protect our environment and to create a sustainable future. And so, Hine Matov, with a little bit of a Bob Marley twist. I'm supposed to turn on original sound. There it is. Hine Matov, Umanai, Shevet Achim, Gam Yechad, Hine Matov, Umanayim, Shevet Achim, Gam Yachad. Here we go. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Hine Matov, Umanai, Shevet Achim, Gam Yechad. Hine Matov, Umanai, Shevet Achim, Gam Yechad. So I'm going to light the candles behind me. I was telling Autumn and some of the people that came onto the Zoom a little early that I am in very tight quarters. The truth is, I probably could have gone somewhere else in my house, given that I had other like kind of accessories for Tu Bishvat. But I'm a creature of habit. I've been doing services in this spot not quite from the beginning of the quarantine. I kind of moved around at first, but I kind of settled in right here. This is like a little den in my house, and I just can't go anywhere else. I'm just sort of, I mean, I go other places when I'm not doing services. I'm not in quarantine, thankfully, but I for services I have to be here. So even if I'm crowding myself with the Seder plate and the juice and the candles, I'm just kind of, so if I look awkward in my movements, you'll know it's because I'm hemmed. I'm kind of hemmed where I am, but I'll be fine. No worry. There's actually a Jewish mystical concept called Simsum. This is a mystical holiday. The Kabbalists really kind of fashioned it in a way. So Simsum is also a Kabbalistic concept when you have to narrow yourself, right? It comes from the word sur for narrow, like Mitzrayim, the biblical word for Egypt. So sometimes we have to kind of make ourselves a little more sort of scrunched. So anyway, I have matches. I have candles. If you'd like to light candles at home, please feel free to do so. And for Shabbat, the sun has set, and I hope it's a time for all of us and for the whole wide world of peace and harmony and renewal and love and of course shalom. So we can say Shabbat shalom. So the lighting of the candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. So I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of Tu Bishvat. It's really an interesting topic. I know some of you know this, and some of you who have been to Tu Bishvat Seders. Usually when we're in person, we have this in our multi-purpose room. So we sort of, one of the only times in the year on Friday night when we're not in the sanctuary, we go around tables in the multi-purpose room. But I talk about this because it's sort of a microcosm of the evolution of religion itself. In other words, religion doesn't stay static, even though there's some people who like to claim that it does. But really, religion evolves and sometimes revolves and changes and there's added layers. And so this is the story kind of the evolution of Tu Bishvat. I think it's a really fascinating story. So the first mention of Tu Bishvat is not in the Torah or even the Bible, the Hebrew Bible. It's actually in the Mishnah, which was a post-biblical sort of book of trying to streamline the Torah and say, what's a way to live a Jewish life in those days, right? 200 after the Common Era. And in the Mishnah, there's a fairly kind of well-known passage that says that there's 4 New Years every year, right? And I'm not going to get into all 4, but one of the New Years is on the 15th of Shevat, the New Year of the trees. And why did they need a New Year for trees? Because, number one, it was important to know how old the trees were. In the Torah, it says when a tree is 3 years old, well, for the first 3 years, you let it grow wild. And you're not supposed to trim it or pluck it or pick its fruit, leave it alone. And actually, that's why some Jewish children, like mine, don't get haircuts for 3 years, because the Torah also says a person's like a tree. So you let it grow wild for 3 years, and then you can start using its fruit. And every year, when it gets a year older, if you own a tree, if there's a tree on your land, you're taxed, so that some of that fruit gets shared with people who maybe don't have their own tree, right? Or, that's sort of, it was a tax system. So Tu Bishvat originally was a way to know how old the trees were. So on Tu Bishvat, after 3 years, you would tithe some of your fruit from your trees to the common good. Okay? All right. So flash forward hundreds of years to the 16th century, where you had the Kabbalists who had been Jews who were expelled from Spain and Portugal after the Golden Age and then the expulsion. And many of them ended up in North Africa, but also in Palestine, and kind of a return to Israel. And they lived, many of them, in the north, in a place called Shevat, up in the hill and mountain country. And they made a lot of innovations in Judaism, including Kabbalat Shabbat, the little pre-service that has become commonplace to ease into the Shabbat prayers. Like Lecha Dodi was the Kabbalists. Anyways, they said, oh, there's this Tu Bishvat thing. Let's make a big deal out of it. And so they developed the Seder, the Tu Bishvat Seder that we're having now. And they compared all of the kind of concepts of Tu Bishvat to Jewish mystical concepts that they were developing, like the Sefirot, the Godhead with its roots in heaven and its branches that reach down to earth, all the godly qualities like compassion and love and holiness and justice. So they said, not only is Tu Bishvat about real trees and nature, but it's also about the Torah, which is the tree of life, right? We call the Torah the tree of life. It's also about God, God's self, and that, like I said, that Sefirot design that looks like a tree. Okay, so that became very much part of Tu Bishvat, and our Seder is very much, kind of modern echoes of that one. But there's more. Now we go forward to the 1940s and the establishment of the State of Israel, where trees were very important because it was desert. And as many people know, the whole idea of growing trees and greening the desert became very much part of the early Israeli ethos. And so Tu B'Shvat became kind of a Arbor Day in Israel, a day to, because Israel, besides the religious community, they secularized Judaism. So they didn't really, a lot of them didn't really like the whole Kabbalistic thing, but they loved the idea of trees. And so on Tu B'Shvat in Israel, they planted trees, and there was a lot of tree planting and, honoring trees. So that became part of the story of Tu B'Shvat. And then finally, in the 1970s in the United States, is the dawn of the ecological movement, the ecology movement, and Earth Day. And for Jews, Tu B'Shvat became kind of another way to talk about ecology and environmentalism and doing everything we can to save trees and save the planet. And that's only become more important, obviously, in this age of climate change. And we know the value of trees when it comes to carbon dioxide. Rabbi Arthur Waskow talks about interbreathing. We breathe out and the trees breathe it in. The trees breathe out and we breathe that in. And that cycle, when it's uninterrupted, is very healthy for the planet. But when it's interrupted, that's when, we can't soak up the trees can't soak up the carbon dioxide. And all of a sudden we have the problem, part of the problems we have. I took a group of CRC teenagers to New Orleans a few years after Katrina as part of a spring break, like a community service spring break. And they had us planting thousands of saplings. Why? Because part of the reason the flooding from the hurricane was so bad in New Orleans is because the wetlands had gotten decimated. All the trees were gone and they couldn't soak up the water. So the big project after Katrina was to plant trees in the swamp. And so we put on these boots that went up to our knees and we spent all day in New Orleans planting trees. So it's a little bit of the story of the ongoing story of Tu B'Shvat. I now want to read for you this isn't in the Haggadah, but I love this. This is from Rabbi Gershon Winkler, who's an amazing ecologically minded rabbi out in California, who does a lot of work with Native American spiritual elders on talking about indigenous spirituality. And this is what Rabbi Winkler said. Trees have feelings, our rabbis taught way back. When a healthy tree is cut down, they taught, the cry is heard from one end of the universe to the other. One who cuts down healthy trees, they warned, shall see no blessing in their lifetime. The very life force of the human, they taught us, emanates solely from the trees. He goes on, it is clear from these and myriad other like teachings of the Jewish tradition that the tree is exceedingly sacred. She waves at us through the dance of their branches in the breeze. She gently blows her sweet breath at us through their aroma. She inspires us to art, to poetry, to appreciation through her beauty, her color, her variety of shape. She nurtures us through her fruit and offers us shelter through her leaves and branches. She even provides playfulness for our children and for the child within all of us that loves to climb trees or swing or lazily nap in a hammock. The trees are us, as the Torah states it so nonchalantly, for the human is the tree of the field. So that's a little bit of a kavanah and intention for our Seder that's to come. And I'm going to sing a song. Some of you know this song. I break it out during certain Jewish holidays when nature is the theme. I sing it at Sukkot, and I sing it at Lag BaOmer, which is the sort of campfire holiday in the late spring. And of course, I sing it at Tu Bishvat, and it is on page 3 of the Seder, and it goes like this. Strong wind, deep water, tall trees, warm fire. I can feel them in my body, in my spirit, and in my soul. Hey ya, 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 hey. Sorry. Hey ya, hey. Strong wind, deep water, tall trees, warm fire. I can feel them in my body, in my spirit, and in my soul. Adama v'shamayim, chom ha'esh, zlil ha'mayim. Ani margisot begufi, v'ruchi uvanishmati. Hey ya, 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 hey. Strong wind, deep water, tall trees, warm fire. I can feel them in my body, in my spirit, and in my soul. I would like now for us to call each other to prayer with the Baruch Hu. So as I said, this is sort of a weaving of Shabbat service into, actually I should say a weaving of the Tu Bishvat Seder into a Shabbat service. So we've got some of the prayers that we sing on our Shabbat service. And soon we will get into the Seder and the eating of the fruits. But first, let's call each other to prayer with the words of the Barku. There we go. As we bless the source of life, so as we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. And our blessings give us strength and make our visions clear. And our blessings give us peace and the courage to dare. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. Baruchu et Adonai ha-mevorach. Baruch Adonai ha-mevorach leolam va'ed. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la. Ya la 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 ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. And let's carry that wave, let's carry that moment from the Barhu to the Shema. So I invite you to take a deep breath, a Nishima Amukah, breathing in all that is good and high and holy in the universe. All that's good and high and holy wherever you are. I hope that you are in a shalom bayit, a place of peace. We breathe in nature. We breathe in the oxygen from the trees. We breathe in our own strength and courage. We breathe in our best selves, so that even in these challenging times, and these are truly challenging times, we can be our best selves. And we can remember that we are all connected to each other. And we have to get each other's back and be at each other's sides. And even though we're all different, we have to act like we are one. Because that's the only way we can move forward, is truly together with love and with spirit, with unity consciousness, and holiness. And so when we say the Shema, all of that it becomes part of us again, So you can use this Shema as a mantra whenever you need more courage, more strength, more compassion, more love, more righteousness. Let's sing the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Amen. So, my friends, we are going to start the Seder. It'll be interrupted a few times with some more Shabbat liturgy, but we're going to start the Seder. I want to say that some of us, including myself, received a Seder plate courtesy of CRC member and chef extraordinaire David Kirkland, who owns and is the chef of Turn Restaurant. Great guy. And so I know some of you on the Zoom and maybe some of you that are streaming have that Seder plate. or maybe you just grabbed some fruit from your fridge, or maybe you're just going to kind of live vicariously from those of us that are eating fruit. But either way, on page 4 of the Haggadah, it says, "May it be that by eating these fruits, all trees, both earthly and celestial, will be filled with the strength and abundance of the glory of creation for goodness, for blessing, for good life, and for peace. When we eat the fruit in a holy way, with the proper blessings and kavanah, the essential flow of life is maintained and encouraged. When we drink the 4 cups of the fruit of the vine corresponding to the changing seasons, beginning with white, turning to pink, then rose, and finally red, we can actually feel the awakening of the tree and of a partnership a long time asleep within us. We are reminded that the spring of growth and hope and life always triumphs." And so the ritual of Tu Bishvat includes the drinking of juice or wine and the eating of fruits, but in a particular way. So the first cup of juice or wine should be all white grape juice or white wine, because the colors of the juice correspond to the seasons. They represent the seasons. And so if we start with the season of Tu Bishvat, which is winter. And so I have here, and this was my Hanukkah present for my kids. It's an official inauguration glass. And it's perfect for Tu Bishvat because maybe it was my birthday, one of those, Hanukkah, my birthday. It's perfect for Tu Bishvat because you want to try to drink from a cup that you can see through, right? So you know the color of the juice you're drinking. So what I'm going to ask people to do is think about trees in the winter. You know, part of this is celebrating trees and remembering the gifts and blessings of the trees, including the fruit, but not limited to the fruit. So think about the tree, what a tree looks like in winter. Obviously, you can look out your window, some of us, and see snow-covered trees. If you want to write into the chat or into the chat on Facebook, you know, what are some of the gifts of winter? What is good about winter? What's a blessing about winter? You know, Tu Bishvat is purposefully in the winter because what we say is that even though nature seems dormant in the winter, it's working to get us to spring. And just around the corner, the trees will bloom into flowers and then leaves. And so right now, under the ground, what Tu Bishvat says is the sap is flowing, right? The sap, I see someone wrote hot chocolate, for sure. The sap is flowing, the nature is getting ready for the renewal of spring, even while it's winter. So here is our cup. You can raise your cup if you have one, and we'll sing the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. And l'chaim. I saw another, I see people are chatting. I missed one about, let's see. Hot chocolate, and there's still a lot of colors in nature, even though, you know, on first glance, it might not look like it. That's beautiful. Okay, so we've drank the first of 4 cups of juice, and now it's time for the first of 3, but if you stay till the end, there's a surprise 4th category of fruit. So on page 5, I'm going to read this. This is part of that Kabbalistic sort of imagery that's used. The first fruit is compared to Asiya, the mystical world of action, the raw material of the physical world around us, represented by fruit with tough shells on the outside, yet edible inside. The spiritual requires protection and nurturing. Special effort is necessary to protect it from indifference, from being forgotten, from unkind influences. When we peel away the shells and the skins, We also peel back the walls that we build between ourselves and others, between ourselves and the earth. So this is fruit that is inedible on the outside, but has an edible inside. So on my Seder plate, I have this is like a clementine, right? Well, obviously an orange, a clementine, banana would count. Anything that, or some people use pistachio nuts, right? Which is, a fruit in the sense that it's, a fruit of the tree, like a gift of the tree. But either way, you can go ahead and kind of unpeel, get your fruit ready to eat. This is so much fun. I hope you guys are having fun too. I think Dory, do you have like a tree background? I see your tree. That's pretty cool. Dory's got a tree background. You know what I'm going to do? I think every once in a while, I'm going to go on gallery view so I can see everybody that's on Zoom. Autumn, what are people seeing that are streaming? Are they seeing like me and then the...
I'm switching back and forth. So
you're so awesome.
And right now, they can see everyone right now peeling your oranges, which is cute.
Get out of here. Autumn is... So this is Autumn, who Autumn is our Director of Online Community and Advocacy. And has been doing a great job, during services, making sure that we maintain that online community. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine on gallery view. Oh, wow. Okay. Hi. Oh, look, it's Bobby. Anyway, I got my clementine unpeeled. We got to say the blessing though. The blessing for fruit is very similar to the blessing for juice, but instead of Borei Peri Hagafen, right, which is the fruit of the vine, we say Borei Peri Ha'etz, the fruit of the tree. So, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Peri Ha'etz. Go ahead and have some of your fruit. Well, that's good. All right. I hope everybody was able to have a little of the fruit. I'm going to really quickly just say something about trees again, more about trees. Some of you might know this. There was a place in Forest Park. It's kind of, let me tell about it. They called it an environmental sculpture, and it was called Tree in Tree. And what it was there was this there was some Osage Native American elders in Oklahoma who traced their ancestry back to Missouri. And, they were part of unfortunately, the Trail of Tears that got force marched, to Oklahoma and put in reservations. And they wanted to reestablish the Osage presence in Missouri. So this environmental artist who also was Osage, he created this thing in Forest Park where it was the husk of an old oak tree. And in the husk, he planted an Osage sapling. And as it grew, there's a Native American tradition of tethering trees to the east. East is an important direction in Native American religions, just like it is in Judaism. And they're kind of like guide trees. They point you to the east, to the sunrise. And so this sapling kept growing, and because it had been tethered, it pointed eastward. And I used to go visit it all the time. It was an amazing place. I rode my bike there all the time. I used it in a sermon in the high holidays. The husk of the old oak tree is now gone, which happens, right? That's part of nature. But the Osage is still there, and it's still pointing to the east. And it's one of my favorite tree images. And I love to tell that story on Tu Bishvat. So moving right along. Okay, so we're going to go to a little bit of Shabbat here. We have to sing Micha Mocha on because it's Shabbat Shira, and that's where we got the Micha Mocha, was the song at the sea. So this is on page 6 of the Haggadah, and in honor of Shabbat Shira and Tu Bishvat, and freedom and justice, and making a better world without masters and slaves, without us and them, all the things we want to do to make sure that we really, really do get to the promised land, because we ain't there yet, obviously. But that's our goal, is to get to the promised land. So this is part of the deal, celebrating each step along the way to liberation.
Neder bakodesh, nora tehilot, osefele, osefele. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Ya yim loch leolam va'ed, ya yim loch leolam va'ed, ya yim loch leolam va'ed, leolam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la.
And how about a Hashkivenu, Olson? What do you think? I just don't know where to put my feet. It's really not your guys' problem, but it's just true. Here, I'm gonna let Sarah in. All right, here we go. Another tree story. This is a story about a group called the Redwood Rabbis. And it's original sound. Oh, it's on. It's called the Redwood Rabbis. And it was a real group. They were sort of an ad hoc group out of California. What happened was there was a Jewish landowner who owned a whole groves and groves of redwood trees. Raise your hand on the Zoom if you've ever seen the redwood trees in California. They're magnificent, amazing, truly. Is that Risa too? We got 2 babies. Oh my goodness. Wow. Risa, have you met Olson? Olson, have you met Risa? Oh, they're going to be good friends, I can tell. Anyway, rabbis of the Redwoods. So this Jewish landowner owned groves and groves of redwood trees. And he made public that he was going to clear cut those trees. And there was a great outcry from the environmental community. And there was a group of environmentally minded Jews who said, let's try to reach this guy through Judaism. He was an observant Jew. And so they decided to have a Tu Bishvat Seder on his land. Kind of like a little bit of a friendly takeover. What's her name? Is it Julia Butterfly who sits up in the trees so they don't cut down the trees? They kind of did that, but with a Seder. And Rabbi Waskow was one of the rabbis of the Redwood Rabbis. And there they were, amidst these amazing redwood trees, having their Tu Bishvat Seder, their Tu Bishvat Seder protest. And somebody, the word for tree in Hebrew is etz, one of the words. But it's also what we call the pole, I guess, of the Torah, the wooden pole that on each end of the Torah that you wind the Torah up, the Eitzim, right? So somebody said they looked up at these amazing redwood trees. They said, listen, what if that big, huge tree over there was 1/8 of a Torah? And then all the way over there on the other end of the forest, that other huge redwood tree was the other 8. And in between was the Torah scroll, the Sefer Torah. And then somebody else said, yeah, and if that was the case, it'd be like we'd all be letters in that Torah. Is that an amazing image? Think about one gigantic redwood at one end, and another huge redwood at the other, and in between people who are the letters of the Torah. And then somebody else said, yeah, in Hebrew, and this is true, there's no such thing as a word with one letter. In Hebrew, in English, we have, the word and I. But in Hebrew, even the word for I is ani, 3 Hebrew letters. And so I think the idea that they were trying to put across was, we can accomplish anything when we're connected, when we're like letters in a Torah, not isolated, but connected to each other and to the earth and to the trees, because those trees don't just give us fruit and oxygen, they give us shelter. Just like the Sukkot Shalom from this prayer. So we all got to be Redwood Rabbis and save the trees. Take this soul, living in my skin and bones. Take this soul and let it sing. Yahweh, Yahweh, always pain before a child is born. Yahweh, Yahweh, it's always dark before the dawn. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'Chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'Chaim. Allow us to lie and rise in peace. And during this challenging time, of course, let us rise in health and love. Allow us to lie and rise in peace. Shalom. Allow us to lie and rise in peace. Shalom. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be all. Sing it out now. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gotta be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. You gotta believe it. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Ufros aleinu. Sukkot. Sukkot shlomecha. Ufros aleinu. Sukkot shlomecha. Cover over us tonight with a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace for you, for those you love, a shelter of trees
a shelter of peace on this Shabbat Shira, on this night that we held a Tu Bishvat Seder over Zoom. Crazy world, but a world that we hope and pray is filled with shalom. For those babies, for all of you, for everyone that lives on this planet that is home for all of us. What Chief Seattle said, what we do to the planet, we do to ourselves. If we make the planet healthy, we're healthy. If we make the planet sick, we're sick. So shalom is wholeness, is all of it. We're part of it. Together, like the Redwood Rabbis. Amen and shalom. It's good to be together. Peace.
Randy, you can't leave us hanging. Did they save the redwoods?
I think that partial victory. How about that?
What does that mean?
Hold on, Bob. Thank you. You can look it up. But they certainly tried, and it was a model for a lot of the actions because this was pretty early on. Okay, the second cup of juice and the second category of fruit. There we go. Okay, so the next season, of course, is spring. So what you're going to do is take your red juice or wine and put a splash of it into your cup that should have, a whole bunch of still leftover white juice. And if you drank all your white juice, put a little more in, and then a splash of red. So it's kind of like, I guess, like rosé or rose, and get that ready. So spring. What I'd like you to do is to think about trees in springtime. And, right now it's easy for me. I live here in University City, and right across the street from me is actually my neighbor just moved recently, but we've been here 20 years in this house. And Joyce across the street was there before us, and she just moved. But there's a tree in front of her house that buds this incredible flower, and it's so short-lived in the spring, like 5 days. It's gorgeous for like 5 days, and then they're gone, so you really got to pay attention. So think about the trees in the springtime. If you want to write in the chat what you love about the spring, so we're kind of feeling the seasons, go ahead and do that. I'm going to put my little splash of red in my, I'm a hot mess, you guys. I just spilled juice all over me. Okay. I'm going to put this down. All right. So there it is, representing the springtime. And let's make our bracha, our blessing, as we cycle through the seasons, the holy medicine wheel of the seasons. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Oh, that's good. L'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim. It's kind of neat because on an ordinary Shabbat service, you got to wait till the end to have that, that kiddush, that 1 cup of juice. But Tu Bishvat, you get it all the way through. I just thought of this, like when we're at CRC and we go into the oneg room to do kiddush, and after I've been leading services and singing and talking, there's nothing like that first sip of juice after or wine after services. It's like, oh, it's like kind of, so anyway. Next fruit. All right, so this fruit, we're on page 7, by the way. This next fruit represents Yitzira. These are all these sort of mystical words and concepts of the Kabbalists, which is formation. the spiritual model that shapes creation. For this one, we eat fruit with an inedible pit inside a soft outside. So it's the opposite of the first fruit, reminding us that despite the wondrous expressions of our spirit, we are still sometimes tied to the hard pit of our ego. That's for sure. We are still concealed deep inside, protecting our divine sparks, even from within, right? So at first we had the fruit that was kind of, you couldn't eat the outside. There was something inedible about the outside. Now it's a fruit that is something inedible about the inside. I have here in my Haggadah, people eat olives, dates, cherries, apples, peaches, apricots, and plums. I think for the Seder plate from David from Turn, this apricot doesn't have the pit because it's a what do you call it, dried apricot, but it's the same idea. So if you have a fruit that normally would have a pit inside, that you couldn't eat the inside, kind of grab it, and the blessing for the fruit Autumn has so helpfully put in the chat. Remember Borei Pri Ha'etz instead of Hagafen. Here we go. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Pri Ha'etz, the fruit of the tree. Enjoy. Must be fun hearing me chew. At least you guys are on mute. All right, tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna move right along to the third cup and the third fruit. I will point out that in this Haggadah, as you look through it, even later, we did this really cool thing with it. We made these sort of sidebars, and on the sidebar are different quotes from Jewish tradition and other traditions about trees. So that's kind of, I kind of like that. And actually on this page, there's a really interesting quote by Martin Buber. And Martin Buber, many people know, is a philosopher. He was a Jewish philosopher who talked about I-thou relationships. There was I-it and I-thou. And I-it were kind of conditional relationships or conditional moments in relationship. And we need I-it, right? That's how we get things done in the world. But then there's I-thou. And I-thou could be, an I-thou with a significant other or a perfect stranger, but that you have this, all of a sudden, this deep connection with that is unconditional. And Buber said that's how we model our relationships. It's kind of the ideal relationship with God is I-thou, and that's supposed to teach us how we relate to each other, or at least we should have as many moments as possible in I-thou. But Buber, who, by the way, became well known in many religious circles and secular circles, not just Jewish. In fact, I know he studied in Christian seminaries and philosophical circles, but this is such a cool statement. He talked about you could have an I-thou relationship with trees. And it says here on page 9, I contemplate a tree. I am drawn into a relation, and the tree ceases to be an it. What I encounter is the tree itself. So if you can think of a time that you really kind of felt, bonded or connected to a tree. I tell the story a lot about my son, Gabe, who's now 19 years old. But when he was a little boy, 6, right here at this same house, I told him it was Tu Bishvat one morning before school. We always walked to school up the road here. And he ran out and he hugged the tree in our front yard in honor of Tu Bishvat. So I always remember that story. Anyway, third cup. Okay, so we have our cup now with, what we want now is mostly red juice or wine and a splash of white. So it's kind of a flip from the last cup. So put a little more red in there, but make sure you don't make it completely red. because that's supposed to represent summer. The season of summer, which obviously comes after spring. Think about trees in the summertime. You know, they've gone past the buds and the flowers, and now they have leaves. So very different from how the trees look now with the snow and ice, but trees with leaves on them, and you know, kind of in that mode. Green leaves, obviously. And did we ever do did anyone put gifts of the spring? I know people always say baseball, right? Opening day. What about gifts of the summer? What are some blessings from the summer? You can think of it or chat it in there. I'm going to add a little more red to my juice. I spilled again, just if you guys are keeping score. That's perfect. Okay. So lift up your cups. The third cup representing summer. Gift of summer shows at the Muni. Oh, wouldn't that be nice if we had some Muni this summer? We'll see. And more sunlight and swimming. I gotta tell you, you guys that know me, I swim in anything, river, stream, lake. If all I got is a pool, I'll do a pool. But I like the natural swimming hole. So for the summer, raise up your glasses. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. Amen. All right. Now the third fruit. So this is also on page 9. The third fruit represents Bria, the world of creation and wholeness, the process which results from material and formation, represented by fruit that can be eaten whole, in which there are no protective shells nor pits inside. This is what we strive for. Unblocked I, thou, there's Buber again, relationships, our relationships with others and with the earth, in which we do not attempt to possess other humans or possess nature. So this is fruit that you can eat whole, nothing on the outside that is blocking it, nothing on the inside that you can't eat. My Haggadah says, I'm going to give a caveat, but figs, which do grow on trees. The other ones, David gave us strawberries, grapes. As we know, those fruits do not grow on trees. They grow on vines. That's why we say Pri Hagafen, grapes. I think strawberries grow on like bushes, or what's the word runner? There's a word runner, but anyway, they're not trees technically. So we'll still say Brei Priya 8s, but it's sort of the caveat. I do want to say that I went to Arizona one time to a place that's kind of near the Grand Canyon called Havasupai, which is this amazing place with these waterfalls in a canyon. It used to be part of the Grand Canyon, but the Havasu tribe sued the government to retain control of their land. And I took a hike in Havasupai, and I went through natural grapevines, like a whole wild grapevines. And I got to tell you, it was like being in a forest of trees. Even though they weren't trees, I felt like I was surrounded by trees. So anyway, I think I have strawberries. Anyone have anything different than figs? Are good because they're so biblical, right? Oh, by the way, I meant to say it. When the thing that with the apricot, the other thing we had were dates that really do have the pit right in there. So, but this is time for something you can eat without being blocked from your eating. So the blessing for the fruit. Now, this is the third fruit. We've got one more cup to go, but there's 4 fruits and 4 juices and 3 fruits. But at CRC, many of you know, we have come up with the 4th fruit. And if you wait to the very end of the Seder, you will discover the secret of the 4th fruit. But for now, the third one, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari ha'etz, the fruit of the tree and some vine. Does anyone have a fig? Anyone eating a fig? Yeah. Got to be thankful for those trees. All right. So what I want to do now, we're kind of moving towards the end, the conclusion, but we got a few things to do. I want to give a few announcements. And of course, I want to make sure we say Kaddish for our loved ones and for the loved ones that we're remembering in our community. And then we will finish up with the fourth cup and the secret fourth fruit. Okay. So when it comes to announcements, you should know that there's Torah study tomorrow at 9:00, like every Saturday, every Shabbat, on Zoom only. And then at 10:00 is Shabbat services. I think Rabbi Susan and Rabbi Jim are leading tomorrow's Shabbat service. I think there's going to be some kind of, I don't know, Autumn, what are we allowed to, what can you say about tomorrow? I know there's special stuff going on.
I know we will be having a special guest
Special guest. Okay.
So
and I know it's not me.
tomorrow to find out.
But yeah, you'll find out. So that's 10:00, and that's not on Zoom. That's going to be streamed on Facebook and YouTube. Oh, Steve Arnold's here. Okay. So now, okay, and then Saturday night, Rabbi Susan and Rabbi Jim have been doing Havdalah every Saturday at 7 p.m. And then, there's lots of programs during the week of adult education and of Tikkun Olam. I want to mention that a new university series is starting in February. It's going to be led by a different rabbi every Tuesday at 7, but the subject is prayer. And so each of us will take a Tuesday and kind of enter into a study on prayer from a different angle. So that starts this Tuesday at 7. Grief support group does meet tomorrow with the wonderful Jamie Sentnor, who I actually talked to. She called me today. That's at noon. You can email Jamie herself if you're interested in joining. I'm sure it's on Zoom. She's at Sentnor at sbcglobal.net. There is a new cooking class starting this Sunday at 10 a.m. With a chef, Roya, cooking up Persian rice with is it THDIG, tadig, and chicken. We're still providing rent relief with a great coalition. This is really, really special. As of January 27th, we've provided rent relief to 63 households, totaling over $30,000 in payments that were made directly to the landlords. So it not only helps the tenants, but in this time of economic hardship, the landlords, many of them, are also hurting as well. So it's kind of a win-win. And members of the community have contributed, of CRC, I think, of that 36,000, 11,000, almost 12,000 of it has come from CRC. Is that right, Autumn? CRC folks. So that's really amazing. It says here, if you'd like to support this campaign, make a general donation at CRC's website and put rent relief in the comments section of the donation form. So that's a really big deal. So I think that's that for now. I want to say, I saw what you said, Dory, about healing prayer. So let's take a second and think about the people in our lives that could use a healing touch. You could say their name in your place. We're always thinking about lots of people in our community for healing. And let me say on all of their behalf, Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. Blessed is the Holy One who brings healing, we hope, to those who are sick, and more importantly, who teaches us how to be agents of healing. Amen. Thank you, Dory. I want to make sure we recognize some of the names of the people we're remembering. I'm going to encourage people at home when we're done to say more names. But I want to mention that this is the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the passing of a number of people who are connected to CRC members, including Pearl Brody, Claudia's mom, Edith Turo, who was Ellen Amarnick and Pam Lester's grandma and Buddy Gerstenfeld's mother-in-law. For Sam Goldman, who was Ken Goldman's father, I can picture Sam at Alternative Services at Rosh Hashanah. One year, the light came in from the skylight and it shone right on him. He was in a wheelchair and it was amazing. It was just really very, very special. For Max Reiches, who was Linda Reiches's father. Linda, one of the early, maybe even founding members of CRC. For Linda Kramer, who was Stacy's mom, and Stacy is a Friday night regular. For Anna Epstein Moss, who was Patty Teeper's grandma, and Sarah Trivers, who was Andrew Trivers' mother. Andrew, who was the architect of our Sukkot Shalom. Cecile Patisha, the wonderful Shirley Patisha's mom. Imagine Shirley's mom. Wow. And Sam Teeper, who was Patty's father. Gene Padditz, who was Denise Bogart's father, and that means it was Danny Bogart's, Rabbi Daniel's grandfather. Stephen Halperin, who was the brother of Stuart and brother-in-law of Susan Spiegel. It's also the yahrzeit of Alex Permut, who was in his 20s. I knew Alex really well. The late Alan Permut's son. This is his yahrzeit. Gary Poskover, who was Sharon Hollander's cousin, and Sharon is a Friday night regular. Bobby, this is the yahrzeit of Ben Fraulenglass. Where are you, Bobby? Bobby was here, but this was Bobby's brother, Ben Fraulenglass. For Max Greenberg, who was Steve Engelhardt's uncle, and Mildred Loomstein, who was Lois Loomstein's mother-in-law. Our own Nancy Weigley's dad, Bernie Serkin, who was a scholar and a really amazing man. Felice Joyce's father, Joseph Taub. And then some of our more recent deaths. I want to mention Peter Fishman, who was a friend of Nancy Yowitz, and Erwin Pollock, who was Sharon Pollock's father. Sharon is a Saturday morning regular. For Ann Alter, who was Michael Alter's mom and Dana Alter's mother-in-law. For Eleanor Flegel, who was Lauren Sagel's mother and Graham and Alexa's grandma. For Jack Oglander, an amazing member of CRC and past president, and he was like a guru. He was like a holy man. I just can't believe he's gone. He was the husband of Vicki Lander and the father of Tali. Jerry Berger, Mel Padower, Jerry's brother, and Louis Meyer is a member of CRC. Madeline Iris and Dr. Nellie Grosswasser. For Lizzie Pressburg. For Arlene Mercer, who was Rachel Timungu's mom. And it's also the yahrzeit of Rachel Timungu's dad, who was Irving Melser. So for Irving and Arlene, we're thinking about them together, Rachel and Patrick and Benji and Eva, the wonderful Timungu family. For Donna Kitchen and for Michael Parker, that's Steve and Bonnie's friend, and Steve I know is on here somewhere. So we're thinking about your friend Michael. Jonathan Kletnick and Evelyn Rudin, Stephen Watson, who was our member Karen's brother, and Ben Katz, who was Allison Katz-Edler's father, and the late Carol Edler, who also passed away in this last year, her husband. I know that Steve Arnold had another person, a rabbi he was remembering. Let me see if I can get it really quickly on my phone, because I know he's here with us. So sorry about this. Yeah. So so Steve Arnold says he's remembering. No, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, this is of Misha Barak. I'm sorry. So we thought about your friend Rabbi Liebrock from Misha Barak, Steve. Please think about a name or say a name in your home of someone you're remembering. All of their memories are a blessing. The Kaddish is in our Haggadah. I'm going to try to stand up because I want to honor all the people who we've named. I want to mention all the people who have died of COVID, all the hundreds of thousands of people who have died from diseases that we hope can cure or begin to work on cures, people who've died from violence, the kind of violence that we hope to reduce to make for more safe cities and safe lives for our loved ones. I think maybe Autumn just put something in the chat. Yeah, for sure. Let's see, Monica Terry, who was Laura Fott's aunt and grandmother. Thank you for mentioning her. For all of the good people that we're thinking of, we say Zikronam Livracha, may their memories always and forever be a blessing. For Keith Carter, Guan's nephew. Thank you, Guan. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba. Be'alma divra kirotei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Bagalal v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabba mivarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal. Shemei dekudesha berichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlam rabba min shemaya v'chayim. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'imru. Amen. I want to mention one more name. Forgot Toots. I did a funeral for an amazing woman named Toots, who was our member Amy Gage's aunt, and Judy Glazer, who's Amy's mom, Judy's sister-in-law. So her name was Toots, or Tootsie, Evelyn, actually, but everyone called her Toots. So the prayer for peace at the end of the Kaddish is a prayer for peace for all of our loved ones whose shoulders we stand upon. Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. We're also getting close to the yahrzeit of Molly Smith, who was a member of CRC for many years and a Torah study regular and a civil rights activist and a friend of mine. So I'm thinking about Molly. Jane and Harvey, I always think about you guys and your wonderful grandson of blessed memory. I see you there and I love you and miss you. I miss all of you. It's so good to see everybody's faces. But let's finish this Seder. We've got the fourth cup. As you might guess, the fourth cup is fall. And fall is represented by a full, as red as your cup can get, because that symbolizes all of the amazing colors in the fall. You know, I like all the seasons. I'm kind of like one of those people that loves every season for its own gifts and blessings. But obviously, when you think about trees in the fall, there's something so incredible, life-affirming, even though it's because nature is going to go back into its cycle of dying again. But those colors and crunchy autumn leaves, and I think about my kids when they were little. I'm sure a lot of you guys did this. We collected leaves and pressed them in wax. You know, that'll Risa and Olson, you guys will do that. There's some great places to collect leaves. So think about the fall. Think about what trees look like in the fall. It's still a long way off. And what are some gifts and blessings of the fall? Think about that. I'm going to pour some more red into my cup. Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, so for the last cup, we've cycled through the seasons, started in winter, through spring and summer, and now fall. See, somebody wrote something in there. Let me catch that. Whoa. I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, you guys hear me? Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim. Sarah wrote that fall was great for bike riding, but Sarah, you ride your bike in every season. All right, now here it comes. We've got one more fruit and one more song, and then we're going to say goodbye and shalom and bid each other a good Shabbos. So this is a great CRC. Some things people think are made up by CRC, but they're not. Like the campfire at Lag BaOmer. That's a real thing. I mean, it's real anyway, but it's really part of more than just CRC. But chocolate as the fourth fruit, now that's a CRC original. So what's the deal with chocolate? Well, I'm going to read it to you on page 11. There's another mystical world called Atsilut. And Atsilut is emanation. It's pure spirit. It cannot be represented, says the Tu Bishvat tradition, by any fruit. But we say it can by chocolate. We began by protecting our soft inner self and slowly peeled our hard layer. We have proceeded until there is no longer even a distinction between the protected and the protective. In this world, Atsilut, we become aware of God's love, God's mercy, justice, and wisdom with our hearts, not our senses. Our hearts are full, and we praise the source which renews creation and who connected human beings, Adam, with the earth, Adamah. Those two words are intrinsically related, human and earth, so they could achieve a life of balance. So the fourth world, they said there's no fruit that can represent it. It's just kind of pure spirit. But we say chocolate comes pretty close. So if you got some chocolate, I know that David, I got this. I think my daughter had a lot of it, but this chocolate thing looks really good. And by the way, chocolate kind of comes from trees too, right? Cocoa, the bean, grows on a tree. We don't think of chocolate as being on trees. Obviously, chocolate is made from the cocoa, but I did get a chance on my 50th birthday 7 years ago to go to Costa Rica. And I saw the trees with the cocoa beans. It was very, very cool. It was like Willy Wonka or something. I felt like I was like, in Hershey, Pennsylvania, or the beginning of the journey to Hershey, Pennsylvania. Anyway, here's the blessing. This is also made up, but it's a real word. The word in Hebrew for cookies and chocolate is uga, which is such an awesome word, isn't it? It really is, uga. So to eat our chocolate, this is the blessing. Ready? It goes like this. Uga, uga, uga. It's so good. That's really good. All right. One more song, people. You guys are awesome. It's been great to see everyone on Zoom. I hope everybody out there watching had a wonderful Shabbat, a start to Shabbat and Tu Bishvat. Go outside and see the full moon. This is Tree of Life. Again, we think about all the trees, the trees in nature, the idea that the Torah, is a tree of life that keeps growing and giving us blessings. Eitz Chaim. So here we go. In honor of Tu Bishvat, it is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it. That's from the Proverbs. All right.
It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it. All her supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it. All her supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it. All her supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it. All her supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. Awesome. I want to give you guys a blessing. I see Steve and Karen up in my neighborhood. We could probably swing from tree branches to each other's houses. Wouldn't that be cool? So, how about you guys on the screen? Let's put our arms over each other. And I just wanted to get one more look at your punums. Oh, wow. Thanks for spending time. I'm thinking about you all, miss you all. Hopefully sometime we'll all be able to get back soon in person and be with each other. But for now, I'm so glad we have this technology, and thanks to Autumn for making it even more connecting. This technology that allows us to feel each other's presence, especially at a holy time like Shabbat, and on this wonderful New Year for the trees. So there's both my hands. For you, for those you love, hi Linda, and for the whole world, we say, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. May God bless you and keep you always. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May all the light, the light from the natural world and the light that's within each and every one of us, and the light, the divine light, that keeps us on the path. May all that light keep us feeling safe and warm and loved. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And may we know peace and shalom, which is wholeness, all of it. May we know justice and peace and compassion and love and joy. May the earth and the trees know all those blessings. May we take care of the planet so that future generations can enjoy the trees and the blessings of the trees like we have. May we truly live up to the possibility of shalom. And may we do it like those letters in that huge Torah. May we do it together. We don't have to be alone. We can be together. So amen. Shabbat shalom. Happy Tu Bishvat. Love you all. And have a good Shabbat and a good weekend. And take care and stay well. Stay well. Bye, guys. Mwah.